My name is Rohan. I grew up between Bombay and Chennai.
My name is Swati, and I'm the co-founder of CashKaro with Rohan.
After that, I left initially to go to the US. I spent a couple of years there at a place called Franklin Marshall College. And then from there, transferred to the London School of Economics. That is where I met Swati.
I grew up in a small town called Ambala in the north near Delhi, and I got a scholarship to the London School of Economics. So I did mathematics and economics there at London School of Economics. Rohan was my 1 year senior, and all these he used to cook really well, by the way. So he once had this apartment where he was making Indian food, and my friends were like, "We are going to the senior's house for Indian food," and I said, "Free food in London? I also want to come along." So I tagged along with them, and that's how I got to know him more. When I graduated, I was looking for a place to stay. So he was my senior who had an apartment, and he was looking for flatmates. So we got another girl, and three of us stayed together. So we were actually flatmates for like 3 good years, just friends, nothing else. And then we started dating after that. I'll say one line and then I'll ask Rohan to say more. My parents always were like around that time, we should start looking for a guy for you. And, they ask me, is there someone? And I would always be like, I want somebody who's as nice as Rohan. I want a nice guy like Rohan. And then I always used to put him as the benchmark to my parents. And then one day I was like, why not Rohan? Like, why do I keep saying like Rohan? So, because I think we were friends, so we knew each other so well. That it kind of made it easier to decide that actually you kind of know what you're getting into because you know that person well. So then I started, testing the waters, and he was equally, already thinking about it. Maybe, I don't know. So.
Actually, if I go back a few years, right, I think when we were in LSE, I think a part of me liked her. And, and obviously when we start living together as flatmates, at least in my head, there was like a mental line that you draw, right? So therefore, I think when Swati sort of dropped a few hints,
I picked up on the soft corner.
The feelings that I had for back in college kind of all came back up. And that's when we just, and then it just happened all pretty quickly, right? So I think from the point we started dating, I think we were, our Roka happened literally 3 months later, and then I think we were married. So, I'll tell you how, if we were to go back, right, and say that how did we, because, when I speak to a lot of couples, right, and we say, hey, would you work together? And, a lot of times the answer is sort of no, right, that look, it's too much. And I think, with at least with Swati and I, we've never had that question itself arise, right? So even when we were starting off and we were thinking that, look, would we work together? I don't think we even thought that there'll be a challenge in working together. We both have very complementary and different skill sets. And at the same time, because we've seen each other through different phases, through college, through, being flatmates, we also sort of have just a very fundamental respect for each other, right? And I think as you have that, and you know that, look, here's somebody who can do things that I can't, and vice versa, it becomes the perfect sort of start to saying, hey, let's build a business together. And I think through that entire flow, as we've, now been doing this for over 10 years, I don't think we've ever sort of seconded that decision or questioned that decision. As a couple, a lot of things that might come up in terms of trust or comfort level or the ability to share, or, a lot of those things are not even ever questioned, right? So I think that all of that really flows in very nicely. So at least, my recommendation to, many of those who might be watching this is, having your life partner as a business partner is a great choice.
I think, it's also, Rumela, because we both don't really have ego issues with each other. So we don't mind if, I don't mind if I'm wrong. I don't think twice about it, Yeah, you said it. Yeah, that's right. That's fine. And that's it. We move on. So it's not like, oh, how was I wrong? Did he say this to me? I never tell him. I don't know. It never really happens like that, So I think we sort of know who's better at what, and then we let that person run with it. And then we don't second guess them, and we just give them the freedom to go ahead. And I think that's how we strike that balance. I'm glad that it's still alive. How? Let's see. We'll talk about the how now.
I'll tell you, and Swati will probably have maybe a different answer, different version to this. But I think romance is a lot about having fun together. It's about sharing more and more memories together, having lots of ups and downs, and business gives that to you, right? Look, if we were kind of in different jobs, we would see each other at the early part of the morning, maybe once we're back. But through this journey, we've sort of we spend a lot of time together, right? Because it's we're kind of co-running this business, and through this, I think what has stayed constant is we still enjoy what we do. So we're having fun at work. Because we're having fun at work, we then have a team. We have fun with the team. So in that sense, it's it just happens, right? And it happens. I always feel that it happens more for us than other couples who don't work together, don't spend enough time together. Because then you're trying to find ways to spend time together, right? It's like an effort or a new thing to do. For us, it just happens every day very naturally.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've never really made a conscious effort to keep the romance alive. We've never really thought about it. And I think that's a good thing because, if we felt that it wasn't there, then we'll have to work towards it. So it's never really crossed our mind. We're together, we are happy. And, we work together, we travel together, we understand each other. And I mean, I honestly, when I wake up every morning, my first thought is to look at Rohan because he's next to me and be grateful for the fact that he's there and that I have him in my life. So I think I, appreciate him so much that I feel like, 14 years later, I would still actually want to marry the same man. So however it is, I think he's done a good job.
People put a lot of effort, right? And I think one thing that is very commonly heard in a wedding house, right, is that so much happening, right? And people are running around, and I think in retrospect, everything works out, right? Sure, what, maybe the flowers didn't turn out to be the exact head you wanted and something, but I would say that, hey, don't stress about some of the small stuff. It all works out, and it's all to, I think, just have fun. Hopefully it happens only once, and enjoy that as much as you can.
Yeah. And, from my wedding, I remember that, from our wedding, of course, I remember that there was this, at the Sangeet, so we wanted our friends to do a dance. They wanted to do a dance, and they were all coming from London. We had about 70-75 people who flew in from London for the wedding. So I spent so much time before the wedding, emailing everyone on the dance steps. And, because people didn't know each other, they were coming from different places. So I, got the choreographer to do it and then got the link and different steps of you doing all that. And I think I just got so tired by the time my wedding actually came, So I think you have to pace yourselves. Don't peak ahead of actually the wedding functions, because nowadays there are so many parties that happen before the wedding actually happens. So sometimes we end up partying in that time so much that when it's your own Sangeet, you're like, oh, I'm like done already, So I would say that definitely pace yourself. And the other thing, I made a little mistake as well, because so our wedding was in Delhi. And I booked for each of my Sangeet, wedding and reception, I booked a different makeup artist where I was going to their studio because, I was like, oh, these are the top makeup artists in Delhi. So I was going to them. But I think instead I should have just had, maybe one person come to me on the venue every day rather than, the bride traveling herself. So I think, I'm sure you have a list of great makeup artists on your platform. People should refer to that and, call people like Angie actually to meet them at their own venue. It just saves you a lot of hassle.
So first, ladies first.
Good place to put in the ladies first. My partner's superpower is his heart. He has a very kind heart. And actually, his other superpower is to do things when he doesn't feel like it. So even if he does not feel like working out, he will work out. He doesn't feel like working, he will work. So he will always do the right thing for his work, for himself, whether he feels like it or not. I have one. So my favorite memory from our wedding is, when my parents hosted our reception in Ambala. So Rohan and his parents came to Ambala, he was probably meeting people for the first time. And it was the first event of our entire wedding. So in Delhi, we had a bigger wedding where, all our friends came and Ambala was like one reception, Sangeet sort of thing beforehand. So I knew that Rohan's gonna dance that night because it was like a Sangeet. But then he went on the stage and, it was like he lit it on fire because he was so good. He knew his moves, and, the song was like, Tenu Leke Main Jawanga kind of a thing. So when you're coming to the girl city and you're doing that song and everybody's like, whoa, who's this handsome guy? And he's dancing so well. So I cannot just remember that, as my favorite memory of the wedding. It was all a lot of fun, but that was, very special. We don't really divide it by work or home. We divide it by different things at work and different things at home. So, at work, if it's, tech, product, data, these kind of aspects, then Rohan would wear the hat on it. If it is like PR, investor stuff, social media, then it would be mine. So it varies. And even at home, if it's, we can't even segregate, because even if I can't even say that food would be mine, because if it's his food, he will only decide. So I can't say it that way. Oh, the proposal. That was the most romantic. It's quite a story. So, like I mentioned, Rohan and I were flatmates. Right. So we got a message from our landlady. We got an email saying there's going to be pest control in your flat and you need to vacate the flat from X to X time on Saturday. So I said, okay, pest control, understandable. So I made a plan with my friends to go for lunch, go somewhere else. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm busy at work all day. So, you make your own plan without me. So I did that. And in the evening, he said, I will go to the flat first, check that it's good and everything is fine. And, it's not too smelly from pest control. Then I'll tell you, then you come home. So I said, okay, very nice guy going ahead, checking ahead for me, So he did that. Then I got a call saying, yeah, everything is fine. You can come now. Flat is all clean. I said, okay. So I came back. I rang the bell. He opens wearing this like black suit, looking all dapper. And I'm like, what's happening? And then inside, like he blindfolds me and I walk on rose petals and I'm smelling like the most amazing candles. And then we go into my room and he had that's when he opened my blindfold and he had covered my entire room with rose petals on the floor and those helium balloons and that helium machine with the gas, and also like black cloth everywhere to make sure that the walls and the paintings don't lend, because there's like an atmosphere of it. And I mean, it was just the most beautiful room I have ever seen till date. And now we have traveled to so many countries, we've had so many experiences, but I think it was still the most beautiful. And that's when he proposed after that. And I was just so surprised and so happy. I kept on laughing. So he's like, will you marry me? And I'm going on laughing. He's like, is that a yes or a no? I'm going on laughing. So I said, if I'm so happy, then it means a yes. So that was the most romantic thing.
So in our case, right, when we started dating and, the minute the parents got involved, it sort of was like, now let's get married pretty quickly, right? Because there was some family pressure, etc. And Swati was like, look, I need a proposal. And, it had to be unexpected. And, so if you travel and you're kind of expecting, okay, something's going to happen. If you're going for dinner, something's going to happen. So it had to be something that was just not expected. So, we actually... So when this pest control, so I had to actually get the landlord to do this. And obviously the landlord was like, look, I'm sending an email saying pest control. Don't put me that I'm doing pest control. With the landlord saying that, look, I know pest control, that's going to happen. And then we actually, the day before, we took out all the utensils because it had to look like pest control.
Oh, yeah.
So me and our other flatmate, who's also with us in LSC, she knew about everything.
No way, I couldn't. They even went out for lunch that day because it was like, oh, nothing to do in the house to be clean. So like everybody played the part fully. So we had full support.
She has many, but if I were to pick, I would say her positivity and optimism. Always there. I think probably and I think it's one of those things that everyone around us notices. From the wedding, there are two memories that really stand out, and they both involve the Sangeet and dancing. Mm-hmm. One is my parents, right? And they're not what you would call typical dancers, right? But for this, they went out and made this super special effort, and they performed on 3 songs, which were absolutely amazing. And the second memory is actually Swati's dance. And I think we had 2 Sangeets and, she did on both of them. And I think it's a dance that we've made Swati do many, many times since. And that is, I think, the second very, very special memory from our marriage.
Yeah, actually, Rohan's parents' dance was just amazing. I still remember that as well.
Look, I think as Swati said, it is divided, right? And I think there are areas that we're better at or worse at. That would be the politically correct answer. Though she wears the pants most of the time otherwise. I think it's, I don't think it's one thing, right? I think there are a lot of things that Swati does every day. And it's the fact that those little things happen every day is a reminder that, somebody really cares for you. I'll give you an example, right? So, like, I get lunch from home, interview that's happening, and I have a meeting after. And she's sort of, before this, we were talking about, look, the lunch is going to come at 1 or 1:30 or whatever, or, going that extra effort to figure out, look, is the lunch going to taste good? And I honestly probably am indifferent. But, the fact that every day there is that little extra effort that goes behind you to make my life a little better, a little happier, I think it's something that I value a lot. Right? So I think that's what I would put as the most romantic thing. It happens every day.
Yay.